Hi, I'm Nicholas, and in this screencast I'm going to outline some of the unique ways to use FluidDB and show how we're making data social. But what exactly is FluidDB? Well, FluidDB is a platform for the web of things, each represented by an openly writable social object. But what exactly is an openly writable social object? Well, we can probably all think of objects in the real world that are writable. FluidDB just makes this possible in the digital world. You see, at FluidInfo, we want to make it much easier to share, annotate, augment, and reuse information. Unfortunately, most useful information exists in walled gardens sitting in databases behind applications, APIs, or in weird proprietary formats. At FluidInfo, we want to make it much easier to share, annotate, augment, and reuse information. FluidDB is designed to make this possible. Often, important and related information is found in all sorts of different places, and you might even find yourself duplicating data all over the place. Furthermore, you usually can't request information that combines data from the different walled gardens. For example, selecting all the self-catering cottages endorsed by the Cornish Tourist Board that are close to good pubs that serve my favourite beer. So how is FluidDB different? FluidDB is conceptually very simple. For a start, there is only one FluidDB that all users and applications share. It contains objects that represent things. Tags are used to specify attributes of an object. Namespaces organize and relate tags, and permissions control access. Importantly, permissions only apply to namespaces, tags, and their values. Objects don't have an owner and could always have information added to them. In summary, openly writable objects are simply tagged with information. Remember, FluidDB's aim is to make the world writable, so objects have no owners or associated permissions. But the tags you add to objects do. Although anyone can add tag information to any object, you choose the permissions for your tags. Thus, you retain control over who sees, reads, writes, or creates data without inhibiting the open writability and social nature of FluidDB. So, what exactly do we mean by social data? Well, let's have a look at a few examples. You may have heard of Twitter, the social networking site that limits its users to tweets of no more than 140 characters. We built an application called Tickery that imports friend and follower data from Twitter. With Twitter data in FluidDB, I could discover all sorts of useful information that would be impossible to glean from Twitter's website. For example, who do I, Entol, and Terry Jones follow in common? A more advanced query might be who do Terry and I follow that Esteve doesn't. Behind the scenes, Tickery has tagged objects that represent Twitter users with, among other things, friend and follower information. Another Twitter-based application built with FluidDB is We Met At. Sign in with your FluidDB credentials and enter a Twitter user. We Met At shows all their friends, and you can select people and indicate whether you've met them or not in real life, as the case may be. Behind the scenes, We Met At tags objects that represent Twitter users. Actually, it's tagging the same objects that Tickery does. Finally, TongueRank is a service that measures influence on Twitter. I can enter a Twitter username and it indicates how influential they are. TongueRank data is also in FluidDB. Actually, behind the scenes, it is also tagging objects that represent Twitter users. And you guessed it, they're the same objects Tickery and We Met At also use. All of a sudden, these objects become a lot richer and we can start to do lots of interesting things. Since all three sources have made these tags publicly readable, the data could be shared and combined. The data has become more social. Let's return to Tickery and find people that Terry and I follow that we've both met in real life. What about people that we both follow, have met, and have a high TongueRank score? The ever-popular Michael Ford. An even more interesting query is who do I follow that I've not met but who has a high TongueRank score? Perhaps I should try to meet them since they're probably very interesting people. Notice how I'm able to reuse information from We Met At and TongueRank within the Tickery application. something that wasn't planned for or anticipated in advance. Finally, it's possible to ask FluidDB to return a list of those tags I have permission to see that are attached to a specific object. In this way, I can browse all sorts of information that might not be found with a query-based search like those used in Tickery. Obviously, FluidDB is not just limited to data from social networking sites. All sorts of useful information from many different fields can be stored, shared, annotated, augmented, and reused. If you'd like to know more, visit our website at fluidinfo.com.